on a Saturday. Thank you, Ryan. I almost forgot. Um, just friendly reminder to if you got some background noise in the back to mute yourself. Um, Mom, if you can mute yourself, just
Huh?
sure. If you can mute yourself, just
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to, but I
I'll do
can't.
it.
okay. Thank you. Anyway, so thank you so much to NAF.
Oh,
So yes, thank you so much for joining. This is the first of the two workshop series that Castle is partnering with NAFA on. So hopefully we will see you again next Saturday, same time, same place, virtually. So what we'll do is cover the history of anti-Asian hate very briefly and also go over what actually hate crimes and hate incidents are. And hopefully you'll leave here with a better understanding of what they are and how to be more prepared to respond as a witness, an ally, and God forbid, as someone who's being targeted. So I will go ahead and just start sharing here. Okay. Can everyone see? Great. Okay. So again, yes, thank you so much, NAFRA, for partnering today and convening everyone. So yes, quickly again, discussing the history of anti-Asian hate, overview of terminology that defines what hate crimes and hate incidents are, and learning more about how and why you should report hate crimes and hate incidents because our number of anti-Asian hate crimes and incidents are chronically underreported. So just a brief history of instances of anti-Asian hate and racism in the US. So here you'll see two images that shows the roots of anti-Asian racism in America that span more than 100 years. And as you can see from the illustration on the right, which was featured in a late 19th century newspaper, the depiction of this Chinese person with the word monopoly written across their hand was intended to stoke the fears of white middle class Americans and stoke that fear during Industrial Revolution time with the threat that Chinese people would take over the economy in various industries. The extremely long fingernails, long braided hair, and grotesque facial expression combined with the feet crossed over each other in a childlike pose fed into that racist, Orientalist tropes. And with the stereotype, the goal is to spread this kind of image to sow the seeds of discord through spreading false narratives and false ideas about an entire group of people. Importantly, the largest mass lynching in America actually happened in 1871 in Los Angeles when a group of white Californians stormed the city's Chinatown and murdered 10% of the Chinese population in LA County at the time. And despite the significance of that event, it's not always caught in our US history books. And the image on the left is of a World War II anti-Japanese propaganda poster. As you can see, the facial features of this Japanese soldier are extremely exaggerated, especially with the teeth, the intention being to make fun and mockery of Japanese people. And both of these images illustrate the historical stereotypes about Asians as foreigners and either people to be feared or laughed at. Fast forward to modern day times. So these are two images of instances of anti-Asian hate recently that was from the start of the pandemic. And on the left here is a picture of a ramen noodle restaurant in Houston with graffiti writing on it saying ramen noodle flu, hope you die. And then on the right is a picture of a game with University of Wisconsin-Madison and Northwestern teams. And you can see a student here purposely spreading his eyes to make it look like he's Asian American. He's spewing out racial slurs at another section of students. And luckily, the student was ejected from the game. But as you can see, these are just, again, another instances of the kind of racism that unfortunately resulted at the height of the pandemic. You might have seen, of course, over the past few years, these headlines of other instances of anti-Asian hate. I wanted to highlight specifically here a couple of headlines here, specifically in the Midwest. There was a Purdue chancellor who made mocking Asian remarks during a commencement ceremony. And then also in Indiana, similarly, there was an Asian American student that was violently stabbed by a white woman as she was boarding a bus. Unfortunately, that perpetrator was arrested and charged with federal hate crime charges. And we all know the tragedy of the Atlanta spa shootings as well, back in 2021, almost 4 years ago already. So national trends, just to bring everyone up to speed, we saw a high number of more instances of anti-Asian hate being reported. And again, this is not new. As I had just explained, we've had many, many years of instances of anti-Asian hate, but particularly from a report from stopapihate.org, we're seeing here that about half of Asian Americans nationwide have experienced discrimination or unfair treatment. 51% of Asian Americans had also reported in this survey that they experienced discrimination as a customer of a business. 36% that they said they had been discriminated against as a student. 26% said they were discriminated as a rider of public transportation. And then 1 in 5 Asian Americans also said that they've experienced, in general, discrimination and actually have reported it. Particularly for our Filipino American community, we have heard even recently, as of last year, instances of hate-fueled vandalism. This is an article of a Filipino restaurant that was vandalized in Lake Forest, I believe in California. Here in Chicago last spring, we had a Chinese American Iraqi veteran who was attacked in the city as he was just going to the grocery store. He was attacked by about 7 young individuals. He was literally afraid for his life as he was getting violently beaten, and he did overhear some racial slurs. So, meaning he was being targeted because of his identity as being Asian American. Also, here in the Midwest, we've seen instances of these KKK flyers in Indiana being distributed. So we also want to focus on the mental health of our Asian American youth. And we learned through a Stop API Hate youth report that 1 in 4 Asian American youth had said that they've experienced some kind of bullying. 50% of them said that they were feeling some form of depression or sadness as a result of bullying. 25% said they were scared for themselves and their families. And this is such a jarring statistic that the leading cause of death for Asian American youth ages 15 to 24 years old is suicide. That's a lot to unpack, but we know that there's a lot of cases where Asian American youth feel that the decrease in their mental health is due to a lot of this bullying and discrimination that they're experiencing in school or at work. So let's actually talk about what a hate crime is and also what a hate incident is. So in simplest terms, a hate crime is both a crime coupled with the purpose of being motivated to commit the crime based on bias of an individual. And as you can see here, these are examples listed here below, which include assault, battery, property damage, criminal trespassing, cyber stalking, intimidation, theft, disorderly conduct, physical harm, and stalking. So there has to be a criminal aspect for it to be considered a hate crime. A hate incident, so what the difference is that there is no criminal aspect to it. It is, arguably just as traumatic, just as dangerous, just as wrong. But again, the simplest difference is that there's no criminal aspect to it. But as you can see here, examples listed below include verbal harassment, verbal abuse, promoting hateful material on private property, abusive phone or text messages, online abuse on social media, displaying or circulating discriminatory posters, literature, and malicious complaints. Also wanted to quickly cover some other common terms, including bias. So an inclination or preference either for or against an individual or group that interferes with impartial judgment. Discrimination is unfair treatment of one person or a group of people because of their identity, which would include their race, religion, gender, culture. And then also prejudice is judging or forming an idea about someone or a group of people without actually knowing them. So why do most hate crime victims not report? We do know, based on what people actually have shared, that there's a lot of internalization sometimes, and this has been shared by fellow Asian American community members that particularly for our community, we do feel like there's a level of shame that comes with reporting some kind of negative experience. We've heard people share that, I don't want to bring shame to the family. I don't want to cause any gossip or rumors. I don't want to share a very vulnerable experience. And so in this internalization, people may feel feelings of hopelessness. Unfortunately, as a result, they normalize this hate. I know with our youth, they've shared that, I get bullied all the time at school, but, I just take it. Or they've been told, just focus on your studies, just kind of go on with your day, don't engage with bullies. But unfortunately, again, as a result, then sometimes our youth just don't even know how to call out those acts of hate, those acts of discrimination, and acts of bullying, and really lose the opportunity to call out those instances where obviously their feelings are hurt. And unfortunately, again, as a result of that, their mental health worsens. Also, in internalization, there's perceptions of structural oppression, self-deprecation. Again, I don't want to talk about something that I'm embarrassed about. And unfortunately, a stereotype then of Asian Americans is that this cultural norm of we just focus on our work, we focus on our school, focus on our family and friends. We don't even want to talk about any of these instances of hate. Another reason is lack of awareness. So we may still just not know what a hate crime is or a hate incident is. So if we don't know what it is, how are we able to call it out? How are we able to report it? How are we able to educate our family and friends about it? Externally, fear of consequences. So particularly for workplace discrimination, fear of retaliation, being outed, of course, for our LGBTQ community, many individuals from that group really still don't feel comfortable coming out in their own sexuality. People also fear of getting in trouble, again, at work, with friends, family, and also fears of relationships being affected in negative ways. Another reason is lack of trust in our government and our law enforcement. And so there are times where people have reported a hate crime and nothing they feel actually happened. The police don't actually fully investigate, they don't follow up. Even when they do follow up, there's really no substantial like action, no updates. So there's a really lack of trust in the system, unfortunately, and if justice actually is going to be served. And there's also this feeling of high personal cost in relation to these agencies as well. Again, if I'm sharing a very vulnerable situation, kind of identifying information, what's the point, again, if you're not actually going to help me? Feelings of the case not being taken seriously, again, discrimination by police potentially, and also just added suspicion then people may feel when they are reporting that, oh, well, now if I report more of these instances, then maybe the police will be even more suspicious of Asian Americans, and are they actually reporting actual crimes? And then lastly, accessibility. So there's always been a chronic issue of getting access to police in a culturally sensitive way in government agencies. So particularly around language access, not having materials in the languages that we need, not having bilingual officers and government stakeholders who can make sure that they do get the language interpretation so that they can talk to police in a comfortable way. So these are chronic issues and reasons why people don't report. But if you do report, there are many options and outlets to report hate crimes to. So for sure, in the moment, 911, police, for sure. Also on the government side, we've got the FBI, and they're generally local field offices spread throughout the country. There's obviously one here in Chicago, there's one in Detroit. So there are different offices that people can report hate crimes to with the FBI. Every state has their own attorney general's office, and generally they have their own civil rights bureau that you can report hate crimes to. And then on the community-based organization side, CBOs, so NAFA and the Anti-Hate Action Center at Castle are a couple of organizations you can report hate crimes to. So just a quick overview of our Anti-Hate Action Center. So we're 3 years old. We received a generous grant from the Asian American Foundation. Both NAFA and Castle are actually TAF grantees that help fund this actual work of anti-Asian hate prevention and response. And so the Anti-Hate Action Center has built the infrastructure around these 5 pillars. So around protection. So we work closely with government and law enforcement. We know that there are some members of our Asian American community that do not feel comfortable working with police, of course, as I kind of just explained, and with government, but we do believe it's important to not work in silos and to work together to best serve hate crime survivors. Prevention. So this is an example of prevention. We're doing these educational workshops to make sure that we're informing the public of what hate crimes are, what hate incidents are. And generally speaking, we're 3 years in with the center. We're still seeing that there's a lack of general knowledge of what hate crimes are. So we really need to be constantly having these conversations and these informational workshops, because that is the best way that we're going to prevent more of these incidents from happening, and we'll be better equipped to respond as well. So our other pillar around response, so at the Anti-Hate Action Center, we're housed in the Chinese American Service League, which is the biggest Asian American serving organization in the Midwest, and we have 28 other programs. So we serve really as a one-stop for hate crime survivors. So they can come in either as a walk-in, they can call, they can report something via our online hate crime report form when they're seeking help, because what we can do is rapidly respond to their situation and connect them to mental health support through our legal consultations. We have 2 attorneys on staff. And then myself, I can serve as an advocate with law enforcement and government. So I can follow up on a police report. I can check on any other forms of assistance. So in Illinois, there's the Crime Victims Compensation application administered through the Illinois Attorney General's office. So we can make sure that that is filed so they can seek any kind of financial support for any out-of-pocket costs they've had to make as a result of being a hate crime victim. We also are in the space of policy. So we work closely with legislators to make sure that we are advancing policies that protect our hate crime survivors and hold perpetrators more accountable. And then lastly, around our other pillar on recovery. So we work with partner organizations to kind of provide spaces for our youth to talk about intergenerational trauma, to talk about the bullying that they're experiencing, and providing opportunities to participate in healing circles so that they have safe spaces to talk about what they might be seeing and experiencing. So quickly again, these are the services offered through the Anti-Hate Action Center. Our goal is to not be the only organization that does this work. And so hopefully you'll join our next workshop next Saturday, because we'll delve more into how we can train other organizations and other stakeholders to do this very same work. Again, we cannot do this work alone. And it's important that we build the capacity and the different ways and opportunities for people to seek help and seek support. Quickly, this is just like an overview of some of our partners in Illinois and the Midwest. And again, the goal is for all the regions in NAFA to do the very same thing and for locally to partner with government, with law enforcement, with other community-based organizations to make sure that they are creating their own anti-hate action centers, their own community coordination response plans, so that there's no one that feels that they're alone and there's no other place to go to. So we hope again you'll join us next week when we kind of talk more in detail about this. So in the moment of a hate crime or hate incident that's happening, what do I do if I experience such a situation? So always, again, secure your safety first, particularly if it is unfortunately being violently attacked. I know a lot of our Asian American folks had reported that they were being spat on at the beginning of the pandemic. All of these different situations where you feel your physical safety is at risk, make sure you assess it first and then call 911 for immediate help. When you call 911, you can state that you may need some translation services. If you do need interpretation, make sure you seek medical attention if necessary. And if there are witnesses present, make sure that you try to ask them if you can get their contact information and a summary of what they saw as unfortunately, a hate crime or hate incident is happening. And furthermore, making a record of what happened. So again, it might be hard in the moment to even think about doing this, but when you do have the time and the capacity to do it, say perhaps like right after it happened, while you're waiting for police to come, maybe make a note in your cell phone, all the details that you can remember, the who, what, where, when, how of the situation. If you can, try to take photographs of injuries, vandalization, graffiti, any kind of recording, because this will best prove that this was a hate motivated incident. Seeking support and reporting that, again, a lot of times people don't follow this. They don't feel like I need support. I just gotta get on with my daily life. I already called the police, isn't that enough? But a lot of times people don't feel the trauma until afterwards and they're trying to process what happened. They may feel now that their safety is at risk. And so we do really encourage people to seek out support with, again, like NAFA, Anti-Hate Action Center, other organizations, because they do have mental health support. They do have legal consultation so that you know your rights as a hate crime survivor. And also, again, we're really trying to end this vicious cycle of the feeling that asking for help is a sign of weakness. It is not. It is a sign of courage. And with every person that doesn't report, that's one less person that's not helped. That's one less person that's not supported. That's one less voice and story that we know about. And so we really want to empower our NAFA members, our Asian American community to help break that cycle. So quickly, these are the 5Ds that are part of bystander intervention training. That this is a great curriculum that was created by the organization Right to Be, and they do a great job of providing online free trainings. And so we just wanted to highlight kind of the main points of this bystander intervention training, which include as an ally and as a bystander, these are 5Ds that you can implement. And so again, even as a bystander, you need to assess your safety first. But if you do feel safe enough and comfortable to be able to help someone in the a hate crime as it's happening, there's distracting. So that means, creating a subtle way to take attention away from the person that's being harmed. For example, you could say to someone like you're on a bus and someone is spewing racial slurs at the person sitting next to you on the bus. You could say, "Oh, ma'am, I love that watch you're wearing." Or what's the stop that you're trying to get off of? Or just other ways that you can try to take attention away from the perpetrator and try to diffuse the situation. The other D is delegating. So scanning a situation and identifying anybody else also may be able to help out. So that's a good technique to just make sure that there's no other perpetrators, there's no other people that might want to try to like create more confusion, more chaos, and identifying again other people who might be able to help this person out. The other D around documenting. So again, taking notes, pictures, videos, these are going to be essential in proving that this incident, this hate crime is hate motivated. That is the hardest thing for prosecutors because there's always usually a lack of evidence to show that specifically this person was targeted for a certain part of their identity. Delay. So also then after the incident has happened, really connecting and following up with that victim to make sure that they're okay. This could be happening again as you're waiting for police to come and really just, trying to calm them down and see like what they might need. You may not be, of course, the person that provides that help, but you could at least maybe connect them to resources and guide them on next steps. And last but not least, direct. So this is where you do feel you're safe enough to intervene directly. So meaning, I'm sure you've seen videos of some of these attacks on the train, on the bus, and there's people that literally physically intervene and try to stop attacker from either like physically attacking someone, again, spewing racial slurs. And so doing that direct kind of intervention is, again, probably the most scary. But if you do feel that you can do it, that might help, again, diffuse the situation. So quickly, we can just kind of go over a scenario that came to our Anti-Hate Action Center and kind of play out and role play some of these 5Ds. And so an individual had called us to let us know that she was heading home on the CTA, so the train here in Chicago, when suddenly someone was starting to yell. And so Chris took off her headphones and heard a young woman yell out, "Go back to your home country," to three other elders. And so at that point, she knew that this was wrong. She felt the need to intervene somehow. But perhaps I can open up to the group to see your thoughts on any of the 5Ds that you think Chris could do in this moment. If not, that's okay. Do we have any brave students? That's fine. So Chris decided to confront and educate the perpetrator about these racist remarks that they were saying. And she approached these people who are yelling out these slurs, why are you doing this? Leave this person alone. And instead, the perpetrators actually said, well, what are you going to do about it? And so Chris ended up reporting it to us, of course, but also reporting it to the CTA and also pressing the kind of emergency help button on the train. Unfortunately, as the train was still moving, they weren't able to stop the train right away. And so as much as we try to, of course, educate the public on all these different actions you can take, unfortunately, sometimes things don't go as you'd like or they don't go as planned. But it's still important for us to report these kinds of incidents so that we know the frequency of them, we know where it's happening, when it's happening, and particularly around hate incidents, why it's so important to make sure that we're monitoring them is because we need to make sure it doesn't escalate into more serious violent behavior. So things can start out as just racial slurs, but these people who spew out these racial slurs, who knows? They could be, feel compelled enough to take actually violent acts. So we really want to make sure again that we're monitoring things earlier on so that we can take intervention and prevention and proactive efforts. So to close us out, just wanted to highlight again kind of reasons why we should report hate crimes and hate incidents. So really increasing awareness around this terrifying problem, encouraging action to better provide solutions to address hate and supporting victims, identifying where targeted solutions need to be implemented. And this is why it's important for all of us to work together so that we can address the gaps for support that need to be implemented. Also, providing data to policymakers to encourage change, holding offenders accountable for their actions, and also showing that hate has no home in our country, our state, our city, our town. Just wanted to share some photos of some workshops. And so youth programming that we do at Chinese American Service League included a Colors of Compassion event that we held at the end of the summer last year, where we partnered with these organizations, as you can see here at the bottom, where all of our youth programs together, we gathered at the Chinatown Square. We had them draw positive messages to spread love and not hate right in front of our Chinatown library. And another incentive to come was free boba tea. So we're happy to have partnered with a local business to provide that treat to the youth. So here are some pictures of the kids. As you can see, be kind, peace, love, unity, stop Asian hate, celebrate diversity. So some, of our photos from that event. Wanted to also share reason why the youth empowerment is important is because unfortunately last spring, this swastika was actually carved in the grass area in front of our building. And it was only through a youth that we found out that it even was there because they were walking past it and they had recognized that it was a hateful symbol. They had learned about like swastika and hate symbols through one of our workshops and reported it to us. And so that was a great demonstration of how the youth really can also be empowered to report acts of hate. Just more pictures of some youth program that we've done. And then for Lunar New Year, we partnered with a local organization to do like a Lunar New Year 101. And really, it's important for us, again, to learn about other cultures so that really is an opportunity for us to learn more tolerance, more acceptance, and really celebrate the diversity of all of our different communities. We did for Valentine's Day, these little cards, again, spreading love, not hate. We had it translated in Chinese and Spanish, and then had a QR code that goes straight to our website. So other organizations can do the same, just simple reminders again of ways that we can spread love and not hate. Our organization partnered with these groups at the bottom here to have this wonderful play called Sama Sama, Solidarity in the Fields. And this was specifically a play that we did during Filipino American History Month. And it covered the story of the Solidarity movement with Cesar Chavez and Larry Itliong on the farm workers' rights movement. And lastly, right now we're in a time that there is heightened anti-immigrant rhetoric. And this is a picture of a safety workshop that we held with seniors. And so we really do encourage folks to partner with their local police to hold such safety workshops and trainings, not just with, seniors, but with the community so that people do feel, again, more empowered about being safe and knowing about self-defense techniques so that they don't feel so vulnerable when they're out and about in the public. Here's our contact information. We can share this also via email and provide some kind of resources and materials from both NAFA and CASEL. But always, we are a resource, we are a partner, and would love to work and collaborate with you all on future workshops because we just really always have to continue these conversations, not just during Filipino American History Month, not just during Asian American Heritage Month, but really throughout the year so that we are doing our best to educate the public. All right. Maybe at this time we'll open up to any questions. Thank you, Kai. I see you put in the chat. It's also safer to sit in the first train car where the conductor is. There's also usually less noise in the first car, so that for sure is a good tip. So thank you, Kai. It is always good to, when you're out in public, to be vigilant of even, where's the exit? Where's the emergency button on the train, on the bus? God forbid you need to use it, but it just is way easier to know already where those tools are in case you need to use them.
Abby, do you have any data specific to the Filipino community and how we've been affected?
So that is a good question. I can make sure I get the accurate number, but this is a good question that I want to lift up the names of some of Filipino Americans that have been victims of hate crimes. So some of you have maybe heard of their names, particularly on the news when their stories were shared. But there was Joseph Alito back, it's almost 20 years now. He was a Filipino American postal worker in California who was murdered while he was on his route. And there was definitely evidence that the murderer was doing this horrible hate crime based on targeting him because he's Asian American. I know just this past summer, the community there, his family, held a memorial to remember again him and that tragedy. There's also Vilma Kari, Tita Vilma in New York, Tito Noel Quintana, both in New York, that were violently attacked. Tito Noel was attacked on the train. Tita Vilma was attacked while she was walking, I think it was Manhattan. She was going to church on a Sunday morning, and she was violently attacked by a man as she was walking past this hotel. There's also Amado Kindara, recently another Filipino American who was attacked as well, I believe on the West Coast. So some of these folks, I mean, some of them were reported on the news, but we do know very well that there are some Filipino Americans in our community that have experienced workplace discrimination, hate crimes, and are not sharing. And, it doesn't have to be on the news, but we really do encourage folks to reach out to trusted organizations, trusted family members to talk about this and report it so that, again, it is not another case that we don't know about and not another person we can't help. Also, I know that for our Filipino American nurses, there have been definitely lawsuits that have been filed in the past about the workplace discrimination that they've experienced as well. So that's, I know, an issue specifically for our community that we've heard about and continue to hear about.
Hey, Abby, this is Wilmer's one, okay? Hello.
Hi, Wilmer.
Yeah, I would like to add over here, I think probably the nurses here in Michigan remember in 1977, wherein the two nurses in Ann Arbor, veteran, I think in veterans, right, Ate Treni, right? They were accused, and in fact, they were convicted of being a serial killer, but it was concluded and it was re-litigated, and they were kind of like free because they were made an scapegoat. So, and I think they move out of the state because and then last 2 years ago, the people, the prosecutor who prosecute them because they got turned over, they wanted to revive again the case and whatever it is, and telling the wrong narrative. In fact, I was approached by NPR, if to rebut, what is being alleged again, because they are trying to make that it's really a killer. And I reached out to some of the nurses over here who are friends, but I think the family decided not to answer it again because it's been relitigated and they were freed. So that's one of our biggest history over here that affects our nurses way back in the early years of I think that was in 1977, and some of our nurses even here may have been friends of these people, and maybe Ate Treni can share that event because I wasn't here yet.
Yeah, I was just new in the PNAM, and what I remember is I was still new at that time. We just went to federal building, and we were one of those who have the placard "Free the Nurses." That's the only thing that I remember because I was new at that time.
Hmm.
So maybe Abby, we can include this. I think that's the case of the who are those two? Uh, Narciso and Leonora Paris. So I think they move out of the state.
Oh, good to know. And so this you mentioned as was covered by the news with NPR.
Well, what it is, 2 or 3 years ago, okay, those people who involved in prosecuting these Filipinas, okay, they are kind of like wanted this issue to come back again because they got frustrated that the case was overturned, and it was I think found out that it was the investigation is kind of like motivated with racial and thing, and so the two were made kind of like a scapegoat of what happened. So 3 years ago, there was a noise again about this case. So I was approached just by NPR. Hey, Wilmar, can you clarify again this thing and make and they wanted to interview the family, but the family wanted to, hey, it's settled, we got freed, the case was overturned, and if they want a case again, make noise again, it's up to this FBI, ex-FBI, and ex-prosecutor. That's their problem. Okay.
Got it. So another case, yeah, to learn about and monitor. So yeah, thank you, Wilmar, for being a good community leader and resource for our community to make sure that these cases don't go cold, they don't get forgotten. Because sometimes again, it's only us that's really going to be our best advocates and only one that's really going to do that work. So Lara asked in the chat, what are some of the reasons why this is still a thing? Why is there still so much strong Asian hate? I would love to open it to the group. What are your thoughts? Really what we talk about in our workshops is that particularly as a result of the rise of anti-Asian hate at the beginning of the pandemic, there was the rhetoric out there that we were the cause of COVID-19. We were the ones that were spreading it. We were the ones just because we're Asian. Not all of us are Chinese, but just because we're Asian. And so we were feared. One of our youth workshops recently, someone had shared that during the pandemic or right after, when kids started going back in person to school, that she's a Filipino American and students would actually be scared to walk past her. They were scared to sit next to her. They were scared to talk to her. And so that definitely is a huge influence of why we're hearing and seeing these instances of anti-Asian hate. But would love to see if anyone had other thoughts and other instances that they wanted to share. Oh, did Tito Ophelia? I think you're on mute still.
Unmute. Okay.
What's that?
Oh, are you talking, Ophelia? Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that some people are very jealous of how we're doing, the way we were highly educated, the way that we do things. We're always successful in doing things. We're paid higher in the job, and we achieve more than them. So when they look at us, seems like we are uh, like their enemies, or they're jealous. They want us not to be higher than them. Because when I was a nurse, when I walk to the room, the way they look at me is like I'm I feel good about myself, like I'm higher than them. So one of them will tell me, "I'll make sure you lose your job." Did you believe that? That's the way they view you, like you're in competition with them. And they're given the chances too to do better, but you know, so
That
that's the way
sounds
they view
horrible.
us. Hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Tita Amy, did you have something to
Oh,
share?
yeah. We did when we talked to the group in Sterling Heights, the policeman did say sometimes they have a hard time the distinction whether it is a hate crime or it's just a crime. So they said that's why they have to investigate, and sometimes the people are not happy because once they look at all the issues, they think it wasn't really a hate crime. So that's one of the problems, because we asked about the statistics in Sterling Heights. They said it's really very low in Sterling Heights. So I don't know about the other communities, but it's one of their dilemma about distinction. And that's why some of the Asian probably that report that crime, they don't want to do it because they think it's not really a hate crime. So that's why we're with Wilmar is trying to get to include the Macomb County so we can maybe discuss all these issues, and hopefully on the third seminar, which is going to be a live one, we'll get more answers, right, Wilmar?
Yes. So what it is, we're talking, with Sterling Heights Police, because I want to connect the law enforcement too. So, just to put ease and, put faces on the law enforcement between our community over here. So they have a very good, and in fact, Abby already met with the Oakland, with Macomb prosecutor, and we are putting the program together. Hopefully after my tax season, we can have a live seminar. But what the police are saying sometimes, they have to be very careful because maybe there's no really overt intention, and it's just kind of like, hey, they are just mad and they just wanted to say something during the moment. So that's why not all, because there's a Islar and over here, it's kind of like there's an intention to but again, and they said it's hard for the police to determine, but they have to account for everything. Okay.
Yeah, and that's really, again, another reminder of why we all need to work together to support a family in need, because the report is filed with police, but many times we hear again, well, is it a homicide? Is it a murder? Because those fall farther up on the priority list. And unfortunately, then some of these cases fall farther down in kind of the line of investigations. And so it's us, community organizations, that really need to hold then police accountable to make sure that they are being investigated in a timely manner and that they are reviewing all pieces of evidence. And sometimes I know some of our clients say, well, oh, I just remembered I have, this piece of evidence. Can we still submit it? Of course, yes. And that's where, us as advocates can make sure that it does get to the proper person, it does get to the proper unit, and it is part of the investigation. And so there are times where we really do have to lift up all of these factors and reasons why we need to make sure that it is equity, again, that we are treated in an equal way, that all of our issues, all of our challenges are being addressed in a proper manner. And again, with this language accessibility, if someone needs translation, our organizations can serve as translators, or we can find a translator. So we have the right to make sure that we have equal, service, equal support, and we can work together to ensure that. Tita Ellen, I think you're on mute if you were sharing something.
Okay, this is Ellen. I am from Michigan, and I'd like to share my experience when I first came here in the US. That was mid 1977, 76. So I was recruited in the nursing home, and our aide was, when I first, on my orientation, they came to me, here you are, taking our job, from us. So about reporting, I didn't really report it, but I answered it back. Ma'am, with respect, I said, I did not take your job. I was recruited here because you needed somebody to work. And I explained to them, you have more opportunity here if you wanted to really go, to school and be an RN. So that's but they never did anything or harm me or anything like that. It's just like a verbal, thing. But I was then scared at that time. I never even reported it to our administration or anything. But that is really true, and I think this would be really a good idea too, especially with all the Filipino nurses that are coming in, and we should maybe give them education about hate crime, because one way or another they will hear it from other people that are like that. So it's nice to know that, now that we are really active in reporting all these things. Because with Wilmar saying about the two nurses, I was first here, and I know the government of the Philippines sent, he was my ninong, the justice of the Supreme Court at that time was Judge Fernandez. And he really helped with those two nurses that was, being with in Ann Arbor, that they are being charged with some crime. So it's nice to know that all these things are, that you're doing all these things for now. So we would know, we will not be silent anymore.
Well, yes, we'd love to partner on outreach and education for our Filipino American nurses, the associations, the Filipino, I think, Physicians Association. We can definitely partner. So would love to chat with you more, Tita Ellen, on that. I want to thank you, Vienna, my colleague from Chinese American Service League. She put in the chat here around, again, the history of anti-Asian hate with the Chinese Exclusion Act, Japanese American incarceration during World War II, and it still continues today with some of these kinds of attacks on our rights and our equity as Asian Americans here in this country. So thank you so much, Vienna, for that. And also around the model minority myth. So to your question, Lyra, about, why is there a lot of anti-Asian hateful sentiment out there? Has anyone heard of the model minority myth?
Not me.
Tito Ed has heard, yes. Yeah. So this is the term that explains when a certain group of people are put kind of at a higher regard amongst other minority groups. And the model minority myth chronically has always been implemented with Asian Americans. And like you're saying, Tita Ophelia, like the stereotype is we're successful, we're smart, we're hardworking, we're kind. But the sad reality is that a lot of our communities, though, it's the opposite. They have a hard time making ends meet. They struggle with mental health. They need support like every other minority group. They need equal access to like student loans, to other kind of financial forms of support, because some of them are in low income jobs. Some of them are not in those high paying, jobs. And so it is part of, again, this education that we inform the public that not all Asian Americans are successful and just need as much help as other minority groups. So there's this false narrative then that we don't need help, and therefore why we don't get as much philanthropy dollars to the work that we're doing. As I mentioned, we, NAF on Castle are TAF grantees. We're very grateful for that. And we still need to make sure that Asian American serving organizations have as much philanthropic support as other minority groups to continue doing this work. So thank you, Vienna. Feel free to share, save these links. We'll also share it in an email to follow up as well. But these are really good links to learn more about why we need to make sure that our data is not erased. Our data continues to be captured, particularly in a disaggregated way. So Ryan asked, well, how many Filipino Americans actually are victims of hate crimes? Sometimes our data gets lost in just the whole Asian American umbrella. And so we need to make sure that we're getting specific data around each Asian American community, the Vietnamese American community, Korean American community, particularly the smaller groups, the Hmong American, Mongolia American. And so it's very important for us to make sure that we have that data to prove to legislators that we need equity and funding and support and programs. I wanted to also uplift, Vienna made a point that our AAPI serving organizations receive only 20 cents out of every $100 from philanthropic partners. So even more reason why we need to make sure that we're fighting for just the same amount of support. So we're past the hour. Thank you very much for coming. Please sign up for the next workshop for next Saturday, same time, same place, virtually. If you would be so kind to just fill out quickly this evaluation so that it helps us to better improve our workshops and our education efforts. So you can just kind of plop in your thoughts here in the evaluation and just hit submit, and it'll come straight to us. And thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Abby. And thank you, everyone.
Hi, Wilmar. Oh,
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you.
I'm here.
Wilmar, this is Ellen. I don't know what you think about a good idea maybe to summarize the places, the agency that that we can report about hate crime
Uh,
to other organization. It's
uh,
hard to get those
and-
Zoom or meeting.
Ellen,
Yeah.
we are already in the process with Abby, you say Abby's group over here, and with Ati Amy, and we are working with, we will start with Macomb County. We have one partner. There's a particular prosecutor who is putting the event together, okay? And NAFA and our community and the rest of the ethnic community will have an open symposium regarding hate crime. So we will start with Macomb County, and then he told me that he will connect everybody, all the law enforcement, and then we can replicate it in every county. Okay?
Oh, that's
So
what
it's in the work.
That's good. Okay. So
Abby, are you gonna take a quick picture of everybody?
Oh, yes, I did.
So we will have a documentation. Some couldn't get in. They were emailing me. I don't know what happened. They said it was closed. So
Okay. We'll make sure then they get on hopefully next week.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. Ryan, do you know how to take the photo? I think it's
I just did. I think I just did.
Okay.
Oh,
Great.
Wilmar is that in the picture? Hi, Wilmar, get in. And Lara and Ellen.
I don't know. I'm already out.
Oh,
Yeah.
hi, there's Lara.
Um, Do you know how, Abby? I don't know.
I think it hold on one second. Yes, I do. I wrote it down.
I did the evaluation. I clicked 5 in there and submit, but it wouldn't submit. I don't know. How can you respond?
Okay, hold on one second.
Oh, there's one another one.
Okay.
I did it.
Okay. Everyone, cheese, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let me make sure I got it.
Thank you.
Wait, just wait.
Okay, I got it.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good rest of your
Thank
weekend.
you. Thank you.
You too.